Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune and my messy studio behind me. Uh, first of all, thank you all for joining us tonight. I got a wonderful show planned. I got a great guest coming on, and I got a returning guest coming on to kind of do a little co hosting duties tonight. But before we begin, I just want to tell you, I know I didn't have a show last week. I was away on vacation, and I did a little bit of a stream where I got some really cool stuff I showed off. But in case you missed it, I just wanted to show two of the items. One of them, this is still one of my favorite pieces I spent some money on. It's the Carl Barks not his Disney stuff. This is like his droopy stuff. I gotta say, I have been staring at this book in my spare time. And which way is it? Am I upside down? Yeah, like that. Look at that. This is the original size he worked. It is gorgeous. I love this. And I also picked up, because this was my era of DC, the DC style guide. And you could take a look inside here later, because I will be doing a video specifically on these items. Anyway, not a big deal, but I had a great week off. I will be doing one more show this week, and then I'll be off for Thanksgiving, and we'll be back in December with some great guests. So anyway, tonight, let's first bring on the returning guest and co-host, Rich Maruzio. Hey, Rich. Now his sound is gone. Hold on. Everything worked. We were just having a talk backstage. Let me check. Is there anything off on his mic? Earpods, microphone. You have your earpods in? You have... Okay, hold on. I'm going to try this here. All right. Just accept what I just sent you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Figured it out. Okay.
All right. Not a problem. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
That's great. Thank you for participating in tonight's show.
No problem.
Our guest is a friend of yours and someone you told me I had to talk to. And I got to tell you, just talking to him backstage, I was having a great time. So I'm looking forward to talking tonight. Let's bring on... Actually, before we bring him on, let's tell everyone this weekend you and I are going to be up at a show in the Elmira, New York area. It's called the Twin Tiers Comic-Con.
Twin Tiers Comic-Con. It's at the Arnett Mall in Horsehead, New York.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And it's a great show It's going to be my first time, but you're a returning guest.
Yeah.
Over there.
I usually do it every year. And it's a great show. They get great people. They're going to have some pretty good guests this year, and I'm looking forward to going.
That's great. Yeah, I am too. We're going to leave Friday for it, and I can't wait.
Yep.
And it's going to be a great weekend. So anybody up in that area, please come on out and stop by and see us. And now for the man of the hour here, we're going to bring on Rick Keene. Hello, Rick.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm fine. Nice to be here in my own house. Thank you for having me as a guest.
No, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. When Rich, and I got to, it's going to be hard, Rich and Rick tonight for me, but when Rich told me about you, I was excited. I'm like, oh yeah, you got to come on. You've had a great career. You have done a lot of really cool stuff and have worked on a lot of like books that I collect. So, we're gonna talk about that and your career. But before we get into that, let me just go to some of the comments. So Sillyville is watching. Hey, that's David. Hey, David. Joker is watching. He says hi. He was on last night. and Dylan is watching. So hello to all of you. And says it's a very lovely house.
It's a very lovely house. Thank you. Thank you.
So, but yeah, so what I like to do when I have a guest for the first time on, I like to find out a little bit about your background, like, you know, what got you into comics, your art background, who's some of your inspirations, things like that.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I wish it was just like a straight line. I wish it was just easy to,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I never intended to work in comics.
Okay.
I like to cartoon. I like to draw cartoons and stuff, but
Mhm.
I never imagined a career. I mean, I went to art school and everything, got my degree to be an art teacher. I mean, since I was a sophomore in high school, and nothing I wanted to be more than an art teacher, where I could teach and help kids and bring out their inner artist. And then nights, weekends, and summers, I could be an artist, which is a whole bucket of crap. But that didn't happen when I graduated. And fortunately, I went to art school first, then I went to college. And when I was in art school, my illustration teacher was Bob Stewart. Bob spelled his name B-H-O-B, and would often sign things B-H-O-B. He worked on Castle of Frankenstein magazine. He pretty much did that whole thing after a while. He worked for TV Guide. He inked for Wally Wood. He was an instructor, and then he ended up working for DC for the last 20 years of his career. Publishes weekly and every week. And I didn't get a teaching job because you know, political things, chapter whatever was going on, and they were cutting you know, art and music classes and everything. So I bummed around for a while, and then I thought, well, wait a minute. I went to art school. Maybe I could be an artist. It took me a couple of years to figure that one out. And so I started at the bottom. I had no connections. I had no idea which direction to go in. And so there was an opening for Sears layout artist. And they, you know, those are the days when those comic book colored, you know, ink drawn ads would come in the newspaper on Sundays and in the middle of the week and stuff. And all we did was layout. We didn't do any illustrating, it was just layout. And so 9 months of that. And I thought, okay, so I know how to do a layout now. And I just worked my way up. And after 10 years of working in tech companies and learning exploded views and illustration and different techniques and things that I didn't learn in art school, graphics and airbrushing. And I just learned all this stuff. And I noticed that I was the handy guy, you know, especially by the time I was an art director at a company. I realized I was always the guy that when it was somebody's birthday, which was almost every day when you're working in an office, every day somebody's a birthday. So every day it was like, can you draw a birthday card for Phyllis? You know, Phyllis in accounting, you know, that kind of a thing. And, you know, or the posters to clean up the litter around the coffee station. So I thought, well, maybe, you know, I'm tired of doing artwork that's only in boardrooms. And I went to art school to have my artwork seen. And I thought, what a better way to spend a career, and, you know, not as a fine artist because I'll starve to death, but be a total sellout and do art for money, you know. And I contacted Bob Stewart 10 years after I had seen him, after I left art school. And of course, he didn't remember me. He remembered the class. Funny thing is, about 3 years after knowing him, he said to me one day, "Oh, now I remember you. You sat in the back. You had really long hair and everything." And I did that just hit you just now? He goes, "Just now." I said, "We've been talking for like 3 years. We've been friends for 3 years." He goes, "Yeah, no, it's just now I can picture you at 17, 18 years old." He was like that. Anyway, I told him my dilemma, and I said, I like drawing comics. I like drawing cartoons. I draw my own cartoons. You know, maybe I could do that. I mean, just a total like, duh. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. And he said, sure, come into Boston and let's get coffee and bring your portfolio. And he, you know, he appreciated the stuff I was doing on for these tech companies and stuff. And this was like, I was working for those companies like in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And he says, so you want to go like cartoonist? I said, well, sure. He goes, well, what kind? I'm like, I don't know. He says, well, what about comics? I'm like, okay. And he said, so you think you want to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And he said, well, let's at least see some of your cartooning. So I brought up my cartooning and he says, how come you don't use a brush? And I'm like, I didn't know you were supposed to, because I was using pens and stuff, you know? And I said, I didn't know you were supposed to. So he said, oh boy. So he looked at everything and then he said, well, okay. And then I had made up an ad it was a cartoon of me with like creatures and things of stuff that I'd done for other people and stuff. And so I had these postcards that this catalog company gave me that you had to spend a couple $100 to get this ad that you would do yourself in this Boston directory. And he picks it up and he looks at it and he sees my name and address, phone number, all that, because there was no internet or anything in those days. And he said, so what's this? An ad on not how to get work? And I'm like, oh. And he goes, you need help. So he organized a class. He goes, I'm going to organize a class for you. I need 6 students. So see if you can dig up 5 other people, which I went to the local high school and did. And he says, a new semester is starting at Boston Architectural Center. They rent out space for Saturday mornings and people can teach anything. And I will teach a narrative art class and I'll give you all the help you need. And he gave me all the help I needed. All right. The high school students were outpacing me. And our final assignment was to come up with a 4-panel mini comic. And I thought I did a great job. And he didn't like it. And it was like, well, I you know, when I grade this, he says, you'll get a B for the course. And I said, I can't get a B. I said, I have my company paying for this. They think that this is going to enrich me being an art director, you know? I said, I can't get a B. I have to get an A. He goes, well, you know, he goes, this last thing you did was garbage. I mean, now I know, you know, and knowing him for years, I knew what he was doing. He was pushing me. And I said, okay, what can I do? He says, do another one. And I said, okay. He goes, you have a week. He goes, class is over. You can mail it to me and everything. So I did this. I sat down. I remember on my drawing board at lunch. I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? And there was this story about a condom that I heard about in college that happened to somebody. And I realized that the funniest things that happen are true. And so I started laying out this little 4-panel thing leading up to what happens with this condom. And it started looking like a Tijuana Bible of Archie or something. And I thought, I can't draw like teenage like humans. I gotta, you know, and I love funny animals. I just love funny animals. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, you know, there's got to be some sort of weasel in the animal, a weasel. So I drew a weasel, and one of my inspirations has always been, you know, Crumb. You know what he did with Fritz the cat and everything, and taking total possessiveness of that to the point of hating the movie so much that he murdered his own character. I love that. I did a similar thing.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he murdered. Yeah, Fritz the Cat Superstar. He was killed by an ice pick, by a groupie, because he just was like, you know. And I loved that because I did a comic when I was a kid, and my parents every night they would be company and they'd say, "Go up and get your comic." You know, I'm like in 7th grade or something, 6th grade, and I'd go, and I hated that. And so to put a stop to it, I killed my character. And, you know, I came down and they're like, show us the latest. And I came down and, you know, the thing's dead. And it shows him getting killed and everything. And I remember everybody just kind of going, great kid you got there, you know, like, you know, so that ended that. So anyways, I always liked Crumb. So, I came up with a weasel. And I did this little thing with the weasel. And I thought, well, cross my fingers. And naturally, the girl in it was a rabbit and very original. I named her Bunny. So he writes to me because he got the flu, so he couldn't call me. And I get this letter, typewritten. I still have it. And he writes, I love this. you're really on to something. And, you know, actually got an A and everything. And this is what this guy was doing. This is what he would do to me. And, you know, he says, you got to build a universe around it. Take this story and front end it and, you know,
Yep.
do what you did with a brush and everything. And there it is. There he is.
Weasel.
And the first story in
Weasel.
here. Now, these are all done, you know, this was all done before I really worked in comics or anything. But the very first story is the condom story, which I borrowed it from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. I called it
Well, I'm going to give you the screen. I want to,
okay,
so we can see it.
Safe at Last. I do think there's a Bugs Bunny cartoon named that. I'm not sure.
You can bring it up. Yeah.
But there is my initial attempt at comics that I would do on my lunch break at work. And
That is great.
he really liked it. And, you know, I had to self-publish it and everything. And I even, you know, to get people to buy it, I even did a color centerfold of Bunny. And so he liked it. And then after that, I started submitting samples to DC Comics. And what Bob and I would talk about was he was talking about how they were spending a lot of money on these $1 million computers in Ireland to they're thinking about doing the archives that way. And I had seen a couple of volumes of the archives, and I wasn't impressed because they were done with all due respect, they were done with I think Flair pens and bleach and whiteout and high school students. But you know, that's another story. And so I thought, well, I can do a better job. And I had been experimenting with computers digitally since Commodore 64 came out. And Bob said to me one day, you know, if you could ever do a cartoon or a comic on a computer and not make it look like it was done on a computer, you'd have something. And it's like, yeah, okay, 8-bit computers are everywhere. You know, that's not going to happen. But I kept at it, you know, and I eventually got an Atari ST, which was more powerful. And in between drawing these Willie Weasley stories, I would mess around with computer graphics. So I was going through a divorce. I had a baby, like 6 months old or something. I was alone. And so that I wouldn't hang myself in the shower, I would cheer myself up by drawing DC characters and mail them in and get rejected every month by DC, because I guess I was getting rejected because they weren't responding. But I was like, I gotta, you know, I have to keep a good attitude for this kid I just met. So he's now 37 and happily married, and he's just the best guy in the world. He's everything to me. But Tim. So anyway, they called one day, and they called after about 6 months of me doing this stuff. And they said, look, it's not like we haven't been ignoring you, but we're really busy, and we are 30 pages short of Superman. And we really like your stuff. Can you do 30 pages of Superman in 2 weeks? And, you know, that whole freelance code, always say yes, and then hang up the phone and have a stroke trying to figure out how you're going to do it.
That's true.
So that's exactly
That's
what
so
I did.
true.
And I had to figure it out in my little home computer, and that stuff's out the window. But I figured it out. I did 2 weeks. I got it done. I got 30 pages done in 2 weeks. And then I didn't hear from them for a year. I mean, I went down there come on down, we'll show you around, all this stuff. And, you know, I went to New York, and it was great. And I met a lot of people. And then I didn't hear from them for a year. And I'd call every once in a while. And I was doing freelance work and doing different stuff, and not really, you know, thrilled with what I was doing. The debtor, you know, they're calling for the, you know, my credit card, you know, those debt police are calling, and I'm trying to make, you know, I had a house and I'm trying to pay the mortgage, and I'm like, I'm screwed. And Jim Chadwick, you probably have heard that name. He was the art director at DC. And in October of 1991, he called me up. And he said, Rick, I really like what you did on that archive book for Superman. Now, you have to understand, and I can get into this later, of how the archives were done. It was very precarious how these things were done. But I I was like, oh my God. And I was out of work. And so, and I was doing a freelance job, and I happened to come home for lunch. And I was sitting there and the phone rang with Jim Chadwick at DC, and I sat up, I almost spit out my tuna fish. And he said, I've got 5 archive books laid out in front of me, and I have a book open to your page, and I like your work the best. Are you available? And then I immediately thought, I'm number 5 that he called. He probably tried this on 4 other people. I've got your book open. I don't know. But anyways, I said, I am available. And he says, well, could you come down tomorrow? And I'm taking my my wax paper, and some mail, because I'm eating my lunch, and I'm crumbling the paper, and I'm going, let me check my calendar. And I'm crumpling paper, and I said, I'm not done with the project. I got to finish, how about Thursday? He goes, Thursday would be, and then I hear like a real calendar flipping. And he says, yeah, how about 12 o'clock? That'll give you plenty of time to get here. I said, excellent. So, I hung up the phone. I went back to my freelance job, and there were people there. And I said, wow. I said, DC Comics called. They want me to come down Thursday. And they're all like, yeah, right. And I said, no, really. And, so I went down, and I came home with material for I had a briefcase, filled it with all Batman. And I came home with material to do Dark Knight Archives Volume 1. And I never stopped working for them until I retired a year and a half ago. So,
Wow.
So that was, and of course I didn't just do the archives, but I did a lot of stuff for them, as well as 5 years working, doing Disney comics, where I did a lot of stuff for them. So that's how I got in. And I really wish that was a shorter story. I really do, because the chat column is like there's Z's and blanks, and everybody's gone home. Yeah. But sorry.
No, they've been enjoying it here. I did want to say, I'm assuming you know who this is here, but cousin Greg says hi to Rick.
That would be Greg Kemp. Hi, Greg, and he's married to my cousin Audra, who's a copyright lawyer. Hello, Audra.
Oh, yeah, cool. And and Joker has been, he loved your work. He says amazing art. That was from when you were showing your
Willie Weasley. Well, yeah. The funny thing is that when I got busy with DC, I kind of forgot about this guy. Mm-hmm. And during COVID, we didn't work. DC locked their doors for 9 months or something. So I thought I would do another Willie Weasley book after all these years, and I kind of forgot how to draw him, and I had to actually dig out the old boards and practice drawing him. And he is a weasel. He gets his comeuppance at the end of the story. He's a womanizer. He's everything. If you aren't hanging around with somebody like him in your crowd, you are probably him then, because every crowd has one of these jerks. Okay. So if you're saying, well, I don't know anybody like that, well, then you probably are him. So what I did was I decided to do a story that took up a whole book. This is the black and white one. And basically he goes to hell. Willie Weasley goes to hell. And he goes to hell for all the things he did in the first book. And I was able to color it after doing years of coloring for Disney and DC and stuff. So I was able to color it, and I did a color version of Willie Weasley in hell, with a female devil, and he's, too much of a weasel. He's hitting on her in hell, and she's about to cut his gonads off. So I had a lot of fun with that. And I actually revisit some of the stories in the first book as to how he got to hell. So anyway.
So definitely not like a kid-friendly.
At the time I had it published, it says for mature readers. I'm sorry, but I see stuff. The Simpsons changed all that. Family Guy. Yeah. There's no real nudity. There's some skin, but not like real nudity. And there's no. It's not Robert Crumb, put it that way. Yeah. So kids can read it. Not little kids, but
no, I'm not. Yeah, I know, but I know what you're saying. It's just when you were saying Crumb was an influence, and then you're doing a character and describing him like, we got another Fritz.
I considered doing that, and it's actually been to it worked against me because you know, I'm not going to name names here, but there are people who run like some of the biggest comic distributions and places out west that I've run into in San Diego and stuff. And I showed it to him, and he says, "Oh man, this is great. I love this." He goes, "But I don't know where to. I can't sell it." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "I don't know where to place it." And he says, "It's not raunchy enough for the adult section." And he goes, "It's a little too mature for the kids section." He goes, "So I can't place this. I can't sell this." And he's reading it
Teens
and he's
can.
laughing. And so I
Yeah.
said, "Okay." And I go to take it back, and he says, "Oh, can I keep this copy? My wife would love this." And I'm like, "Sure." So anyway, it did get sold in other stores. It got sold online. And if you come and see me at any comic convention, you can also buy one.
Northeast
'Cause I got
Collectibles.
boxes of them.
Northeast.
Huh?
What show we're going to be at?
Yeah,
Yes, I was
they'll
about to
be
say.
there. And the one where he
Yep.
goes to hell. Yeah. Yeah, I always manage to sell them.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
And that's Thanksgiving weekend, though. You're going to be up
That's-
at the Northeast.
Northeast
what's the
Comic
full
Con,
title?
Comic and Collectibles. Yeah.
That's it, yeah, yeah.
3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, it's a 3-day show.
Yeah, it's
That-
3
that-
days.
It is a
And
great
Rich will
show.
be there. So Rich packed
Yeah.
some Gatorade, Red Bull, deodorant, and gum. Okay. It's going to be a long weekend.
It's in Boxborough, Mass.
Boxborough. Yes.
Yeah, I did the show once. It was a really, really fun show.
Yeah, it's a fun
I
show.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time. I went up. I did a lot of artist interviews at that show when I was there. I think Rich, you were on one of the
Yeah,
panels,
it
right?
was.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had a good time on that. I hope to get back up to that show sometime. We'll see. So, oh God, there's so much I want to ask you
Sure.
right now. I'm just trying to think where to start because you gave me this great story, and you know, I know you know the big thing that I know about you for specifically DC is the archives and the you know construction the you know the you know doing the what's the proper word? I'm blanking on it now.
Reconstruction?
Reconstruction. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that was just like one of the things I did for them.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I went through a bunch of my DC archives. I own 10 of them, and I'm not going to hold them all up, but these are some of the ones that you have worked on here.
Okay.
That your names are in the title.
Yeah.
Or in the credits here.
Yeah.
And you got some Thunder Agents there
of
from
course.
Rich.
Yep.
And you know, he told me you worked on some of the showcase books.
Yeah, I did. They yes. Happy to say that some of those books ended up on Sheldon's bookshelf on Big Bang Theory. I could watch my bindings of my books every week in Sheldon's book.
You know, it's funny. I was watching that show the other day with my wife because it like reruns all day long, it seems. And I remember being a scene in his bedroom, and like they went to. I'm like, wait a second, do I have that? Do I have that?
Yeah.
Because you know, I'm going to show you something.
Yeah, and I'm watching. Like I did that one. I did that one.
You can see on my bookcase right there. There are literally 2 rows on each shelf, plus, there's the 2 rows on this shelf here, and then there's 1.5 rows on this one, and then I got some of my Marvel Essentials there. But yeah, no, I collect. I love that because I'm colorblind, so I like to look at the black and white line art a lot.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Mike colors really. He colors really well. He's done a couple prints for me, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you colored this!"
I will say this, just to explain it again. I am what's known as shade blind. I see colors, but when they blend, I have trouble telling them apart. So I tend to use bright colors. But I also understand color theory, and I understand how to mix colors. Even if I can't see what I'm mixing, if you say you're coloring in CMYK and I need a brown, I know to start like 35% cyan, you know, something, right? I do 35. Then I think I do, or is it? Oh God, now I'm blank. I have it written down, but it's no black. It's 100% yellow, 75% magenta, and 35% cyan. And that's the brown I start with. And then I move around the picker to go lighter or darker, because that was the brown I was taught when I was coloring I was doing some coloring for some comics for someone a long time ago. And that was the black skin tone that they were using. So I know when I was going for that brown right there, I was like, okay, that's the skin tone I need. And then I could pull and go darker for, like, if I want like a leathery kind of brown, or I go lighter, you know.
I color by ear. I'm not a numbers person, and it's like I can do it instinctively. I know, like whether it's watercolor or whatever, ink, or even on the computer. I mean, I used to play bass guitar, and I would play with by ear. Sometimes I'd use tabs to get the layout, just just the outline of the song, but then I would do everything else by ear. That's why I said color by ear. If numbers get involved, I'm all confused. I mean, not that I'm dumb with math or anything. It's just that I just don't gravitate towards percentages and fractions and the numbers and stuff. I'm very visual, and in fact, playing the bass. Somebody said, "Well, then how do you play the bass?" And lots of guitarists and bass people, play by tabs.
Yeah.
And I said, but for me to memorize the song, you remember like in the 50s, you'd see them a lot in model cars, the decals, those black swirly line lacy things that would, so that would be the path on the neck of the bass. So when somebody would say, okay, we're going to do, A Hard Day's Night, something like that, I would get that image in my head on the neck, so I'd know where my fingers would go. So everything was visual. But if it was like, somebody said, give me an E sharp, I'd be like, I don't know, point to it. I don't know. And, the whole thing with colors, it's like, well, do you use 35%, magenta in that? And I'm like, I don't know. So,
yeah.
I when I color, like, digitally, that's how I work, is when I know, I can do colored pencil and a bit of watercolor, but I have to have everything labeled so I know what I'm blending.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well, I think the colorist or the artist who colored Star Trek, the animated series, that
the Filmation one?
Yeah.
Or the
I think he had the same problem. That's why if you watch the show, these loud, garish colors. He had a so the legend goes. I don't know.
I'll have to.
You mean cell painter, or the person who did designs on it?
The backgrounds and all that stuff. Very vibrant, loud colors. Yes,
it is.
Yeah.
It's very 70s-ish too, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
I do have a comment from Sillyville asking if you're in Boston, because he's in, what's that, Weymouth?
Weymouth.
Weymouth? I'm sorry, I don't know Massachusetts well.
Or Weymouth. Weymouth. Yeah, not Boston proper, but yes, I'm in Massachusetts. Yes.
And the what's it called? The show, the Northeast, that's Boxborough. That's how far is that from Boston?
Hour? I don't think it's an hour. No, I mean, maybe it's like inside of an hour.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, probably about 45 minutes.
Oh,
if only there was this device, if there was only this thing that we had, I can go up to my glove compartment and get a map that could tell us how far away.
Yeah, I will. I'm not going to. I try not to go on my phone during interviews.
I hear you.
But I just want to first off say hi to Tim. I don't know, Tim Jones, right?
I do. He's a great guy. I got to know him last March. Around the time I got to know, it's Rich, right? Yeah, about the time I got to know Rich.
It's me.
Joker says, what did he say? He goes, when I color pick, I just look at whatever looks good to him.
Well, yeah, of course.
And then he says, I really need to learn color theory. I was actually talking to a friend of mine, Rich knows her, Allison, who does amazing, yeah,
She's
amazing
incredible. Her stuff.
watercolor
Yeah.
work, and I'd love to get back into painting. I haven't painted in
Yeah.
years, and I found recently my old Winsor Newton, set here.
hmm
But when I opened it up, all my colors fell out.
Oh.
Oh,
So I
jeez.
don't know what color. I have to get my wife to help me
Oh.
sit down to place them
You
back
did you have
because
them in order so you kind of?
I had them in order and I had the little slip that it came
Well,
with.
that's borderline blind, isn't it, Mike? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like how do we play tricks on Mike? Rearrange the furniture in the room, you know? So
So, but yeah, no,
Don't
but
get
I
me
love this.
started.
But she said, since I what's it called? I'm colorblind. She goes, just work with analogous colors and then pick some random color. It doesn't matter if it looks good. Just throw it in there and see how it looks. She goes, that might be a very interesting way of coloring for me. So, once I get this setback, I'll I may play around with that.
I met an extremely talented colorist, Susan Daigle Leach. She's an amazing colorist for comics.
Mhm.
And she was working in-house at Gemstone, and they were publishing the Disney comics. And I'd go down there to Baltimore, and and I wanted to take a stab at coloring. And she taught me so much while I was there. And then she would, if I had questions and stuff when I was at home, I learned so much from her. And I love it when these people that are really good at something make it look easy. And
Mhm.
she made it look easy. And it's you think, because people will say, like, well, I'll say, well, lately I've been doing coloring, this was like a few years ago, for DC. And it just doesn't get the respect. It's like, well, now on a computer you just use a paint bucket, right? And I'm like, no, it's the same as using, okay, the advantage is you have an undo key, which you don't have with physical media, but you still have to know your stuff. And but while working on the Disney comics, she taught me that. So I ended up doing a lot of coloring for them. And then when I was like tired of like looking at black line and all that kind of stuff, in the last couple of years of working, I thought I just want to give my eyes a break. I just took coloring, and I loved it. Uh,
That's awesome.
I like
So
coloring.
it's one of those things I wish I can like really do well.
hmm
I know Rich says I do, but I work specifically with like I said, it's very bright colors. I'd like to get a little, more of I guess a little more artsy
That's
with it.
that's
And
you probably have a really great style, and everybody just thinks this is your Peter Max style with these hallucinogenic colors or something. I mean, I would not overthink it, and I would not. And whoever's in the group here saying you got to learn
yeah,
color theory, if you're coloring and you're having success with it, and Mike, you're obviously having success because
Thanks,
I know
Tim.
Rich, and he would like not tell you were doing a good. He would just go, "Oh, very interesting," or he just wouldn't say anything,
yeah,
and or he'd talk about the weather. So if he said that if you overanalyze it, you could lose that flair.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tend to cell shade. I also have a background in animation, so my stuff looks
Oh,
very.
do you? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I went to school for, and my first job was a character designer for educational video games, like software for
hmm
kids. And so I was doing character design, and then actually moved into animation because I knew the
Yeah.
software, and then did some animation. So, but never for like big companies. Back in the '90s, I was working for companies. I was doing the Flash animation on the internet, the banners
hmm
and little Flash cartoons and things like that.
I
So.
did when I finally left corporate. Yeah, I did those 30 pages for DC, but that year in between, I ended up working on a computer game for the PC, Riders of Rohan, which is a Lord of the Rings game.
Mhm.
And there was animation. I do animate stuff, and you know, everything starts at the drawing board. Everything I do is at the drawing board. So everything got drawn, all the animation, everything was done at the drawing board, scanned in, and then colored with the colors that we had to use in the software. And I have never played that game because I always had a Mac, so I could never play it. It was like 5 discs, but it was all, you know, animated hobbits and, you know, Treebeard and all this stuff. I never played it. I think there is if you go on YouTube, I think if you do Riders of Rohan, the opening when you first boot it up, it's 3 of the characters in silhouette running, and that's my animation, and they're running, and it's, you know, it's a parallax view. The stuff is passing by with the moon in the sky and stuff, and there's this beat, and so they said, well, do you want to do the opening animation as well? And I said, yeah, you know, I never say no to anything. I never, that's cool. I have enough money. No, you guys do it. No, I always would always, you know, take it. They called me up from DC. You know, this is again while I'm working for DC. They call me up and they're like, hey, you want to do some work in the Batman animated series style guide? What am I supposed to say? No, really? That sounds awful. No, I was like, yes. And so, yeah, we'll get off the books that you're doing. We'll extend your deadline, and then here's what you do for the. And they did the same thing with the lithographs for also the animated series. They called up several artists and they assigned 2 characters, and some of them weren't even on the animated series, but, you know, DC characters drawn in the Bruce Timm style. And so they assigned me Poison Ivy and Catwoman. And to show you how much things have, and I'm putting this out there because people have to know this story. This is how it happened. In 1992, there was no internet.
True.
There were computers. Nobody was using computers. And nothing was fancy the way it is now, where they do things. I mean, there are probably 30 somethings that can't imagine living in a world without digital anything, you know? So they called me up and they said, we're doing a series of lithographs of the characters, and they got to be really, really big because, you know, we're going to have them printed and colored and everything, and they're going to go into the Warner Brothers stores. Now, I never found out if they were on display at the Warner Brothers stores or if they were for sale or both. Don't know. I never find out the follow-up to things. If they don't mail it to my house, like
remember.
DC, when DC with the books, they would always they would always like ship you the stuff you did. If it was something that I had to go looking for, I'm like, well, I hope it came out okay, because, you know, I never saw it. So, and it wasn't until years later I was in DC and they had a hallway in there with all the lithographs framed on this wall, and I had a picture of myself taken. Really bad hair day, that's why I'm not going to show it. But and you can see them all there. They're so great. But anyway, they called me up and they said, and it was special projects. I believe it was special projects. Now, when I was there, special projects was run by Joe Orlando. Joe Orlando was in charge. And what a thrill to go down there and take work and meet him, because he's, you know, Joe Orlando. And, you know, I'm dressed like this going down there, and this man's in a suit, you know, and the people around him are dressed like this, and he's walking around in a suit. Very real gentleman, nice guy. He actually caught me kind of doing something, and he was standing behind me. I didn't know he was standing behind me. And when everybody went quiet in the room, I turned around and he's standing there smiling at me. I'm like, it was like being caught by the principal. But he was a terrific guy. So his department, they called up and they're like, you want to do Poison Ivy and Catwoman? I said, yes, I do. Oh, you mean you want me to draw them? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll draw them. And I said, but they said it's for a Batman animated series. And I'm like, oh, are they doing another Saturday morning cartoon? I was thinking it was like one of those, you know, Super Friends Filmation things.
Yeah.
And they said, no, this one's very different. This one's very different, very serious, very dark. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, sure. And I said, but what do they look like? I mean, do I just draw anything? Or, oh, no, you got to follow the style. You got to follow the style. And I said, well, how will I do that? And they said, oh, we got it covered. We have a TV with the VCR, which was the top technical thing in the world back then. And we have a Polaroid camera. and we'll freeze frame a couple of frames of both characters and take a Polaroid and send them to you. You try, and what we want is we want one of these. We want these, these 3/4 views, the head tilted, looking at, we want one of these, these high school graduation shots. Of course, there's none of that in there. They're all leaping around, and when you pause a VCR, it would flicker.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they take
yeah,
a
yeah.
picture of this with all this blurry stuff and everything. And I'm like, and I have to kind of do this composite, and I had to practice drawing these characters. Never saw them before. Never saw the show. The show wasn't on yet. Had nothing to go by. I don't even think I knew who Bruce Timm was at that time, which is, shame on me, but I don't think I did. And so well,
No, I'm sorry. I was reading a comment. Let me. I'm sorry. Let me get to a couple of the comments.
I was
real quick.
busy.
I'm
I
sorry
had things
to
to
interrupt.
do. I have deadlines. I can't follow somebody else's career. I'm trying to destroy mine. So I'm looking at these, and I finally kind of got it where I think this is it. This is it. And I had one of those old-fashioned give-a-show projectors that my cousin had given me back when I was in high school. And it was one of those, like an opaque projector. You'd put like a solid object or a picture, you put it over it and it would project it.
Yeah.
This is as high tech as we got in those days. And so after I drew these, what I thought was acceptable drawings, I put up a big piece of vellum that I unrolled. I had nothing to work on. And I projected these things were about, I don't know, 4 feet high or something, 3.5 feet high, whatever. And I would pencil them on there, and then I inked them with a brush and everything. And when I was done, I rolled them up, put them in a tube, shipped them off, and crossed my fingers. I hope I nailed the character. And they liked them, and they said, yeah, we're going to use these. These are great, thank you. And when's the show going to be on? And I think it was on Fox in the afternoon, something, the Fox Kids show or something.
4:30.
So I would, I would stop work, I think, every day at 4:00 and,
Yep.
put on the TV, and I waited for the Poison Ivy and the Catwoman. They finally, one of them came on, and I'm sitting there, and I felt like, I'm in the pit of my stomach. I'm like, God, I hope I nailed this character. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Okay. For somebody who, got a blurry, Polaroid, which I think were in black and white. I'm not sure. And then, I waited for the Catwoman episode, and I don't know which one was first, but yeah, then I saw her, and I was like, okay, then. So anyway, that's my, this is what they would do. They would call you up, and they just had this off the wall assignments. Do you know CAD? Toy Story came out. Do you know CAD?
Mm-hmm.
And
I know the software.
yeah, I know some CAD. I was practicing with it on my Atari back in the 80s, on my Atari ST. And they said, well, we'd like these different, Hasbro. I love this. Like, who dreams up? You guys hate me, don't you? So they would be like, we're coming out with this line of toys. I think Hasbro is sculpting them. It's called Total Justice, where the characters are really, really pumped up.
Yep.
I remember the figures.
Remember those figures? And they said, we want like workbooks. I know, we want workbooks and color and all these different things. And so we need, Batman, the Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and Darkseid done in this style. And so, you're always signing NDAs. I signed NDA for all the Batman animated series stuff, signed NDA for this. And they send me these photos of these sculptures and everything. And I'm like, you remember those torsos? They were like, they were like gorillas, So they said, we want a CAD version, and they kind of roughed out what they wanted the characters to do, these little thumbnails. They sent me all of this, and they said, you have a week. It would take me all day to sculpt a CAD character in that pose, and then I would have to, my Mac would render. It would take all night and into the next morning to complete the rendering. And then once it was rendered, I would, in the meantime, I'd be working on a background. I wasn't going to render a background. And I would do a Photoshop background, draw something, scan it in, color it, whatever. And then I'd have that ready to go. and it took one every day, and there was the last one was a combination of Darkseid and Green Lantern. I think Green Lantern was shooting his ring ray at him or something, and Darkseid was doing something, whatever. I didn't have time to do 2 figures. I was just barely making the deadline. So I called him up and I said, I can get it to you, but it's going to take over the weekend. I mean, because this was a Friday. So you're going to get everything. I shipped everything last night, so you get everything today. But I know that I wasn't going to have time to, so I can get it to you Monday. And they said, no, that's too late. And I said, well, now what? They said, no, that's okay. That's okay. We'll just go without that one. These will be fine. And I said, okay. And I don't know, maybe it's me, but they didn't pay me for that one that I didn't do. And I thought that at least maybe they'd throw me a freaking bone, for like nobody has done CAD for them before. And
Yeah.
I did all of these characters and all these work, basically all these paintings in, 5 days.
Jeez.
And I was like, I'm going back to editorial or collected editions or whatever department. They're nicer there. So anyway,
I just can't imagine. Like, I know of the program CAD. I've played with it a little bit,
yeah,
but like, because I was when I did 3D stuff, I was just using 3D Max. I knew a little Maya. I don't do 3D anymore. God, I'm so glad I never need to touch that. But I forget which software it was. I think it might have been 3D Max that worked with CAD, and you would create like all the splines in CAD, and then you would extrude everything in like 3D Max or whatever. So it was like almost like creating like stick figures in a way in CAD, and then I would get the thing and just extrude everything up.
yeah,
Yeah. But I don't really remember. I'm going back to early 2000s right now. I haven't touched 3D since like 2003. So
yeah. No, I just kept going, and then I got a 3D printer, and then I was making things and stuff, and then I just hit a wall after, I don't know, about 10 years, and I have a 3D printer I need to unload. I'm done with the whole 3D thing.
yeah. Oh, wow. No, but that sounds like an and a hard thing to do, especially at how powerful the Macs were at that time.
Yeah, I guess I just could have used more power.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't take all night to render now, but
Yeah.
I would go to bed, and I would just hope, to get up in the morning, like, and run to the computer. I hope, because if it didn't come out, I'd be a day behind. I was.
Yeah. I had the same issues with I think it was Premiere or After Effects at the time. Rendering out, I'd have to like, okay, going to bed now, and just.
I can see some comments over here.
Yeah.
Someone told me, breathe, Rick, breathe.
That's Tim.
When I get on a tangent, I breathe through my ears.
Oh, well, there's a lot of comments here. I'm trying to get to all of them. But,
I like this one. Never say no, Rick. His nickname now.
Yeah.
Never say no, Rick.
Yeah.
I say no a lot now, but
I have my dog here.
I was hoping that was your dog. I was going to ask what the hell's going on your lap.
Oh, she's pacing back and forth. She's old, so she's got that pacing back and forth thing.
Oh,
So
no. Very sweet.
Yeah, I tend to do that too.
she's half blind. So. Okay, I'll put you down. That'll calm you down for a while. Go ahead, get lost.
Wow. So I mean, listen, you've done. Let me just ask you this:
Sure.
Of all the type of stuff you've done, I guess specifically for DC, what has been like your favorite thing to work on that you've like anything just stands out that like, wow, I really like the way that came out, or I wish I loved it so much I would love to work more on it,
It's actually, I think, easier to start at the bottom and say the things I hated the most and work my way up. Yeah, yeah, Thunder Agents.
Is that a hated?
Oh, I wouldn't even. They'd send me the books and I'd give them away. I don't even. I think I have one on my shelf. I didn't want any part of those things.
You didn't say you
I
had
didn't want any.
books.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take a coat hanger and hang it in the outhouse. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't care for that. Yeah, I mean, okay, so Rich said, "Hey, have some books handy." So there's a couple of things here. One of the things that I like to do for both companies is when they assign me something that was totally original, and because working on the archives was a challenge. It's. I wish I could say, "Oh, you know what? You scan in the pages and you just touch them up," and that's not the case at all. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of it is at the drawing board, and
Yeah.
look, I don't think they don't do the archives anymore. I don't work for them anymore, so I'm a little bit more forthcoming about some things. A lot of it's at the drawing board, and I think one of the things that I had going for me is that I could mimic anybody's style. And there would be days when, like, you have, like, you come to a page, and from this whole half of the page is gone. So you have two sides of a page um, that is missing, and you call DC, and they check all their people that supply them and loan them stuff, and they check everything, and then they'd get back to me in a day or so. They can't find anything. So they would say, well, you're gonna have to draw it. And so we would have a conversation about, what do you think they're saying? Well, let's see. Gee, up here, Lois is falling out of a window. Down here, he's talking to her on the sidewalk. I'm guessing that he catches her in here somewhere. And so we would plot it out, and that kind of a thing. And then I would sit down and draw the stuff, draw the missing work. And so I was really proud that I got to, without risking like a collector who might have this buried away, saying, "That's not what's going on that page, you jerk." That never happened. So I was lucky there. But I really like doing that. I
If
also
I can
liked when,
interject for a second, what artists
sure,
did you mimic? Did you have to recreate? Like if
who?
you said Superman, do you had to create like
Jack Burnley.
Plastino or
Yeah,
Burnley?
like
Okay.
Jack Burnley, or even, I know where you're going with this. I know you've been sitting on this since I met you. You've been like, why haven't you said anything? I know where you go, Joe. Yeah, Joe Schuster. Um, what? I don't know. Oh, Dick Sprang.
Dick
So
Sprang.
Dick Sprang, but this is a case. Now this I like doing too. They would say, well, there's a lot of Dick Sprang stories in this book,
Isn't that Bob
and
Kane?
so we, huh?
I said, isn't that Bob Kane?
No, this is Rick Keene, actually. This is Rick Keene drawing in a Dick Sprang style. So they said, can you draw a Dick Sprang style Batman and Robin for the cover? So, you pour over all the work, and then you figure out what, we want them swinging in on ropes. So yeah, that's what I did. It's like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to mimic his style and Batman and Robin. And, I looked at how the teeth were, the mouth was. I look at how Dick Sprang did. He has a definite style,
Mhm.
and you mimic it. I did it. I think I did it for an Action Comics for Jack Burnley. But what Rich is dying for me to talk about, I would like Rich to ask me. I'm waiting. I'll wait.
What book did you restore
Oh, well, I restored a lot of books.
that every fan loves?
I'm going to give you the screen for this one. Oh, wrong person.
Wrong
Sorry.
person.
No, keep
There
it
we
on
go.
him.
No.
It's all right. Keep it on him.
Go for it.
God. Listen, when you interviewed him last time, did you go into his Bugs Bunny and all that stuff?
we talked about bugs. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did. Did we?
Okay,
Yeah.
so Rich, if I
Yeah.
if I do this, I want you to draw a Bugs Bunny on screen.
Oh God, no. I don't even know how. I don't even know how I could do it on screen.
Not
So-
on the screen. I just tilt your camera towards the paper and draw a Bugs Bunny.
The hell is a piece of paper?
Okay, so what? Here's what I've been alluding to. Rich found out that I worked on Action Comics #1. Now, the thing is, is that everybody would like to think that. By the way, can you take me off and just
I can.
can you make the three
you
of
off,
us? I feel like
Yeah,
it's creeping me out.
Okay.
Is that what people have to go through when I talk to them? Ugh. So, they said, listen, we want to restore the first appearance of Superman in Action #1.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, don't you have that? And they said, no, we don't. And I said, well, you know, you're DC Comics. You should have Action #1. We kind of have, and I'm not talking about, they do have film for, like, you know, the other stories in there. I had nothing to do with those they had, but they didn't have Superman. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? I mean, are you going to send me something for me to work from? I mean, how's this going to work? I mean, I can't imagine that if you have any reference material that you would, you know, ship it to me. And what they had was, they did have pages from Action #1 that I think back around 1940, something like that. The somebody in the office, a secretary or something, she cut the binding, and then she took the pages of Superman and she laminated them to preserve them. So they had these, they looked like restaurant menus, these big clear plastic with 2 pages. And so you'd see, you know, 1, 2, you know, turn it over, 3, 4. And, you know, the laminate was like ancient. It was like, at the time, I'm just like 90 years old now. It's probably like 70 years old at the time. So it was getting kind of pitted and textured and everything. And I said, this stuff isn't going to scan in well. It doesn't look good. Some of the stuff was damaged before it was laminated. And, you know, it's do the best you can, you know, kind of a thing. So I'm like, I mean, I was pacing, you know, this is Action #1. This is the big one, you know.
The Holy Grail.
This is the Holy Grail, which is what I told them.
Yeah.
And it showed up, and sure enough, they pull out these humongous laminations, which was ridiculous. When they're in Burbank now, oh no, yeah, they're in Burbank now. They're at the Warner Brothers Studios. DC is a shadow of itself. It's just a room now. All the people that I worked with are gone, died, retired, moved on. It's you know, my DC, the one that I worked at for so long or even grew up with, you know, it's over. Sorry, kids, but
What the heck do I?
you know somebody that's hanging in there?
What?
What do you mean? Who the heck do you know?
No. Somebody's.
Oh, I thought.
I'm looking. No, go ahead. Keep going. So, I was thinking out loud. So,
You're not watching porn, are you?
no,
Okay. So anyway, just checking, Rich. You got me into this. I got to talk about this. I kept my mouth shut for 30 years. So I had to do the best I could and scan in every page, and it was garbage. It was junk. And I pretty much had to redraw, re-ink, forge, counterfeit. I mean, I could probably do a dollar bill right now in about 30. I mean, that's what it was like, because Joe Shuster was just really big on, you know, hatch lines and lines and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Let me find a sample here. I mean, he just see the background there.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's an easy one. That's all parallel lines. But stuff like this. God, I'm trying. It's hard to do this backwards.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of lines everywhere and clothes and stuff. I didn't feel right unless I got every single line in that story done. And even where the lines would go thick and thin, I mean, I was using a magnifying glass and I was just carefully putting everything back in there. And they even said, we don't care how long this takes you. And I said, well, you're eventually going to get a real one, right? And they said, well, no, this is what we're going to use. And yeah, the post office came out with a special edition Action Number One, a few years later, and that was it. Or, anytime. And I don't think I did the cover. They might have had the cover done already, but I don't think I did the cover. And anytime, well, like this, they come out with a facsimile. So, this is Joe Shuster and me,
Yeah.
So I just felt very awkward, extremely awkward about it. So when I was done, they oh, this is good. Yeah, this is great. We can, we're going to use this. Is great. So I said, okay. And I said, I need a favor though. I said, I don't want you to put my name in any of these books that are going to do this. And they were like, are you kidding? Why not? This is like a feather in your cap. And I'm like, because this is, and that's when I said, this is the holy grail of comics and superheroes and everything. And I said, you don't want people to think that anybody monkeyed around with Action Number One, do you? The first appearance of Superman. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, okay. And I thought, oh my God, because there'll be people who will be, blowing it up and I'll be getting hate mail and how dare you? I mean, because I got email like that over the years, not often, but, once in a while, some crackpot would, pop up and, oh, you messed up the Flash. Where do you live? I want to come to your house and kill you. That kind of thing. Well, that happened. Okay. So, yeah, no, I mean, people take this stuff passionately. I'm like, I'm not messing with first appearance of Superman. Yeah. So anyway, I kept my name out of it for years and I never really told anybody that, it was me. And Rich has been on my back since March. Are you crazy? You don't know anything anymore. You can tell them. You should be bragging about that. I'm like, yeah. There is a Batman Holy Grail that they also had me do. It's not the first appearance of Batman or first appearance of Robin. It's nothing like that. It was more, later. I'm not giving you any clues. And Batman I did that one. And I kept my name out of it. Stuff like that. I just don't think anybody should know. Of course, I just blew it, but I don't think people should know. It's, they're happy with the way it is, and
But the problem is that book is so faded that the first, an actual original copy, you got to think that you actually restored it and brought it back. So, I think the fans would appreciate that.
You would think.
Yeah.
Where do you live? I'm coming to the house to kill you, you mother. You would think.
I have a question about the Superman book though, with Action Comics. Yeah. I know they gave you take as long as you want, but how long did something like that take you with, because what is the original story is what, it's 12, 16 pages?
Yeah,
it's not
it took me
long story.
Yeah, because I used to do a story a week. Average story a week, and then I was even getting faster over the years. This is still numbered. This still has the numbers in the corners from when they wanted it to be a comic strip, and they cut it up to lay it out as a comic page. There's no page numbers on here, just panel numbers. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 pages. It was probably about I don't know. I mean, we're going back to the 90s. We're going back to like 90.
96, 97, maybe, with the post office.
It was
I think.
before that. It was a while before that. I'd say it was like
Wow.
94, 95.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty. Well, my son was. It was 30 years ago. My son was like 7.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't like numbers. Do the math. I don't know.
Wow.
I would say it took about 6 weeks.
Wow. Because I'm just imagining you looking at this, the acetate protected pieces that are kind of falling, all bumpy and falling apart, and going in there with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, magnifying glass, and then and I would scan it in and blow it up on the screen. And I don't want anybody to think that I sat there with a blank piece of paper and copied and redo. That's
Yeah.
not what happened. I mean, I did use what I scanned in, and you can put layers over things. You can print stuff out of a laser printer. You can put it on a light board. I mean, there's all these different tricks you can do to make it look very natural.
Yeah.
Some people have tried it, and it's not great. It took me a long time to figure out a lot of these techniques. So I want to give a shout out to Nick Lyons. Nick was a high school student. He was 18. He's like 31 now, and I was asked to teach part-time at a high school in Massachusetts here. And I took a little time off from DC for the school year, and I got a chance to teach, and really glad I didn't become a teacher. Oh God. Kids are feral, you know that? So anyway,
I got stories for you. I worked in education for a while. I taught college for almost 20 years, but that's great.
Yeah.
It's when you go below.
Yeah. Any high school, if
High
there's
school's
anybody
the
in high
worst.
school listening to this, I meant no offense. I'm sure you're terrific, but they gang up on you. And the funny thing is, when I started, I had just been in San Diego, and I was like talking with Paul Dini, and my son had graduated from college, and he wanted to come with me finally, and he came with me, and I had the lanyard on, and people are coming up to me, and oh, nice to meet you. Oh, can you sign this? And I'm just walking around. It's great, and then I'm in a high school for 2 weeks, and I'd be like, can I go to the restroom? No, class is over. And I'm like, hey, somebody asked me to sign a book, and you just flipped me the bird. It's just very different. I mean, it's just humbling, So anyway, Nick was a senior in high school. He was graduating, and he wanted to go to art school. And he said, "Can I come and work with you?" And I said, "Oh yeah, sure." And he got out of art school. I said, "Well, and he wanted to go into animation, and he studied animation for a year. Found animation extremely boring. Now, I've animated some commercials, and I've animated some things, and you worked in animation, and I can get a little tedious.
Yeah.
And he switched schools, and he went to School of Visual Arts in New York, and he wanted to work in comics. And I said, you may want to rethink that. It's kind of I don't know. Comics are just kind of drying up a little bit, I guess. But he insisted, and then so in the summers, I would have him, I would train him to help me with the workload, and I taught him how to, taught him how to do a lot of stuff. And he's now 31, and about 10 years ago, it was less than 10 years ago, but I had him put in as a full-time freelancer for DC, and then he went and he called Marvel, and he does work for Marvel now. And now I haven't talked to him in quite a while, about 9 months, and so I hope he's still working. And he lives in New York. I hope he's still working for both companies, kind of doing reconstruction and doing other stuff, and good luck. So anyways, I just wanted to mention him, and I guess the moral of that story is be careful what you wish for.
Wow. Oh man.
Well,
No,
I mean, you know.
but no. I'm not saying anything about to be careful what you wish for. I'm just, you know what, I like that he came and you let him work with you for a bit. You know, a lot of people don't do like that apprenticeship type of stuff anymore, and I think that's how a lot of people really learn how to work.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not just learn the methods to work, but learn how to work in the industry.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so I think that was really cool.
No, he was
that
a
you
good
were-
kid. He was pushing
Yeah.
it though. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
the last day of class before they went down to the field to graduate, he's like, "I'm graduating now. Can I call you Rick?" And I said, "No, you call me Mr. Keene." You know. When I did talk to him about 9 months ago, he said, "Now can I call you Rick?" I'm like, "No, you still call me Mr. Keene." No, you know.
You know, that's when I actually tell a lot of my college students, because I haven't taught college in a few years, but like all the ones once they graduate and they're no longer my student, I'm like, you don't have to call me Mr. Gracia
Yeah,
anymore.
right.
You can call me Michael.
Right.
And but like they'll see me at conventions, especially like in New York here near us, where I live, and they will still call me Mr. Gracia. They can't call me Michael. You know, they just
Yeah.
That's funny.
can't. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a nice thing. It shows respect, but you know, it's just it's a little weird for me to be called, you know, Mr. Gracia. I think sometimes
I had an art teacher in junior high, and
Yeah.
we became friends after graduation. And I must have been 26 years old, and I was still not calling him by his first name. And one day he said, "Will you just call me Larry?" And I'm like, "Larry? You're not a Larry. Larry?" All I could picture was Larry Fine. Like, Larry?
Yeah. Wow. So, Rich, you gonna do bugs or what?
What?
No,
How am I gonna?
I'm kidding. I'm
I
kidding.
kept my
Okay.
end of the bargain up.
What?
I kept my end of the bargain up.
How,
I
do you-
revealed something I've held in for
how do I
30
do it with my
years.
camera?
I don't know. What do you got you just got your Mac?
Yeah.
Rich,
So don't.
Rich, you're off the hook.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
Don't
about
worry
it.
about it. You're
Don't
off the
worry.
hook. I was only kidding.
I
Yeah.
was drawing.
I
that
got.
while you guys
Maybe
were
I'll give you
talking.
one.
Yeah,
That's a great bug.
I did I did an experiment today. I did a drawing experiment today. You know, I have the record player behind me where I'm sitting at the drawing board.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to draw, and I was telling Rich I was going to do this. I'm going to draw 9 Mickey Mouse heads, different emotions, on one sheet of paper. And all I did was I did like a circle and then 2 more circles for the ears. And I did that in blue pencil 9 times. And then I went back with a pencil. And I wanted to see how long it would take me with a dark pencil to come up with an emotion, draw it, and see how far I would get. Instead of timing it, because, you know, I don't like numbers, I played a record. So I put on the Beatles' White Album because I figured that'll give me plenty of time. There's 2 records there, right? So I put on side 1, and I think the last song on side 2 is Julia. And Julia was not finished yet, and I finished. So it took me 2 sides of a Beatle album to draw
Nice.
Let me give you the screen so we can see that.
9 Mickey Mouse heads.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which was just an exercise, you know. But I'm thinking this isn't a bad thing to do to you know, when you're doing a comic, to do something like this and have, you know, a lot of stuff already figured out.
Yeah, I tend to you know, because of my animation background, create model sheets.
Yeah.
So I'll do you know, expression sheets too, depending on not usually on like if I'm doing superhero stuff, but the cartoon animals, because I, like you, I'm a big fan of cartoon animals. When you were talking about how DC sent you a photograph, like paused the TV and sent you a photograph, the way I taught myself how to draw growing up was I would record cartoons and play it back on the VCR and pause a frame. And I would draw what I saw. That's how, like, I'm a big Hanna-Barbera fan. Like, that's kind of like a go-to style for me. But, like, I loved, you know, everything, Looney Tunes, whatever it was. But I was, like, you know, I remember drawing, like, G.I. Joe cartoon characters, you know, and and Transformers and Voltron and all those things. That's what I was so like. I developed, not realizing it, being able to draw in different styles.
Yeah.
Because I was learning, but it was through the animation. So like, sometimes like if you look at G.I. Joe, for example, and you look at how they draw them in the comics, they don't look like the animated cartoon.
Right.
So like going and learning how to draw comic book superheroes later on in life was a little more difficult for me
Yeah.
because I was always kind of leaning towards an animated style.
Yeah, I'm finding that out as I prepare all this artwork for these conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll draw a Goofy or something, and Rich will look at it and say, "Well, that's kind of like the 1940s animated Goofy," and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I don't know. They would have me draw Goofy at, when I was doing the comics, and yeah, I mean, I think I did get, I have it around, I have it stored away, and it's like, what were you using for a model reference? This is like, they haven't used this style of Goofy since the 40s. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. To me, Goofy's Goofy, but So anyway, yeah,
Yeah, but if
I
that
like-
style works for you,
Yeah.
well, for conventions, not working for an editor. Yeah, I do whatever I want, and I do.
Yeah,
like,
I know that's a great part of it.
I do like drawing more of the vintage stuff. I think that I mean, I think the worst Mickey Mouse, well, there's actually two really, really bad Mickey Mouse, I think.
Okay.
Mickey Mice, I don't know, Mickey Mouses. In the 50s, when they gave him eyebrows and they kind of pinched his
Okay.
eyes together,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he would wear like the Bing Crosby golf hat, and oh my God, I can't stand that version of Mickey Mouse. The other one, when in animation, well, actually, the first one was animation too, but this one, when there was a period where they tried putting his ears in perspective. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Well, there's one cartoon called The Little Whirlwind, and his ears
Yeah, I know that
are
one.
in perspective. And they
Okay.
tried another one too, and then they just kind of did away with it, and they went back. And I mean, because Mickey Mouse he doesn't have any whiskers, he doesn't eat cheese, he doesn't live in the hole in the wall. He's not a mouse. I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of a human, really. But they tried the thing with the ears in perspective and showing his teeth, like buck teeth when he talked.
Yeah.
And then wiggling his eyebrows a lot, and because he would, and it was just creepy as anything, and it was just weird. In fact, I turned the cartoon off. It was freaking me out. But if you can find The Little Whirlwind,
I think it's on Disney Plus. I think I saw it on there.
Oh boy, yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan. Listen, I was a Disney geek at one point, but and my wife and I, we would go to the park like every year. We were just down in Disney World, but we just stayed at a hotel. We did other stuff in Orlando while we were there. Did not go to the parks, but like for me, I never really liked the Disney shorts. I think the funniest stuff they ever made was the Humphrey Bear cartoons. I think those are the only thing. A couple of like Donald with like Chippendale.
Yeah.
I don't really find a lot of the Disney stuff funny or entertaining to really watch of their shorts. But I love the comics. Like, you working for Gemstone, I'm sure I had some of those books that you worked on. I have who was it that put out Fantagraphic? I have like Scrooge collections and Mickey Mouse over there and Donald Duck collection books. Like I love all those, so I liked those type of stuff, like the Mickey strips.
Yeah. In fact, was it the Naked Mouse, that comic that was, or the mouse? It was a series of
found this in
comics.
my pile.
What is it? Yeah, that's it. I have one of those.
Which one is it?
Yes, and those are incredible stories. So these
Yeah.
adventure stories, and then of course they've all been reprinted into volumes by Fantagraphics.
That's what I have.
And I
have a
think
bunch of
they're David Gernstein does a lot of the notes and everything, and he's a Disney historian. that I worked with. You know, he was there at
Okay.
Gemstone, and I worked with him, and very knowledgeable guy. He had me. He did he has me in a book, kind of a coffee table book, but kind of an information book. Apparently, Good Housekeeping magazine used to do every month in their magazine back in the 30s and 40s and stuff. They had a Disney page and Disney
Yeah, that's
stories
right.
and stuff like that. And he collected all of those, and some of that stuff
Wow.
was trashed, and so he had me redraw a lot of the stuff, and he has me in the book and said some nice things. But yeah, David, you know, I ordered a couple of the Fantagraphics books, and when I saw that David Gerstein was involved, I'm like, this is it. This is everything you want to know is going to be right here, because he knows it all. You know, he's a
Yeah.
good guy. Yeah. But
Sweet.
yeah, so I was gonna mention something, but the Action Comics thing really buffaloed me.
It's okay.
It really did.
I
It
don't
really
know.
did.
Well, don't worry about it. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, just to finish the Disney stuff. I never cared for. I mean, I don't really care about the. I'm not really into Disney.
Mhm.
I do really love the classic characters, but in that time period of the 30s and
Yeah.
the 40s,
Yeah.
No,
I have to
agree.
be very
Yeah.
specific. I'm not into Disney princesses or anything that Disney does now, or I don't even know what Disney is now. They've lost their minds. But I was never really into it. And as for the
Yeah.
Disney shorts, the Disney cartoons, I was always into the animation. It was beautiful animation, and you could tell that
Yes, I agree there.
they were working out techniques and things that they were going to put into their motion pictures. And instead of blowing it, you know, and finding out it didn't work in a motion picture, they would do it in these shorts. And
Yeah.
I just find these shorts, and I wish Disney Plus had them all. They don't. You
Yeah.
can find some on YouTube, and some are just, I don't know where they are. But that stuff is so educational, and for an artist and a cartoonist who likes funny animals, I never really thought they were funny. I thought that they were cute. Goofy was one of my favorites, but I found some of his sequences could be like laborious. They would just go on forever. If I think of like you know, when they're ghost hunters and he's sees a ghost in the mirror and he's going back and forth, and it goes on for like 10 minutes. And you're like, oh my God, we get it. It's funny. Move on.
Yeah.
They would just, they would kind of overdo a joke, which was barely a joke, but the artwork and the animation was spectacular. And
Yeah.
it taught us all how to draw, I think.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to say, I still look at Disney shorts, Disney, like I was saying, I didn't find them funny, so I didn't tend to lean towards them as something to watch a lot. But as someone who studied animation, I found
Yeah.
them to be like, and this goes for their movies, everything. Like, you can learn so much just by looking at the construction or how movement, the acting in there is unbelievable.
They taught
Oh
me a
yeah, the
lot.
animation. I mean, just looking at the pencils of
Oh,
what
yeah.
these animators did are incredible.
Yeah, they
So,
taught me a lot about perspective and volume.
mhm.
And I think that, and Rich and I had this conversation for conventions. I have a lot of, and you know, it's funny, you know, people probably gift you books. Oh, he's like give you a Disney book. Fortunately, the Disney books that were gifted me are actually pretty good, like Illusion of Life, the Disney villains. You know, I got a lot of kind of obscure books. You know, you go to a library, like a public library, a town library, and every year they'll have a dollar sale. Like fill up a bag of books and you can pay $1. They're always throwing out old Disney stuff from the 40s and stuff because of all the inappropriate, out of date material, you know? And
Yeah.
so, you know, I'd pick stuff up like that, and you just learn so much.
Mhm.
It's Looney Tunes was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still laugh out loud at those. I mean, maybe I'm an idiot, but I still laugh out loud at those, you know? And the artwork is to me is just as good.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was that, like, for the conventions and stuff, there's so much life in pencil drawings that seems to get, like, you look at a cell and you look at a pencil drawing of that same cell, and all the life and breathing is in the pencil drawing. You can kind of see the life and drawing in the moving animation, but for
Yeah.
a still frame, it's all in the pencil.
Yeah.
When Heavy Metal was breaking up, the Heavy Metal movie, one of my favorite animated movies. Okay, so I'm an adolescent kid. I bought a set of the pencil drawings, not the cells, because the animators' pencils are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I was inking things, selling things at the conventions, and they take a while. And I'm like, okay, I finished penciling this. Now I'm going to get out my inks and my markers and destroy it. And I got just so tired of messing up work that now I'm just doing pencils.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way. You know, I'm a very loose artist. My work is very sketchy and a little, I guess, messy, if you will. But I feel like that's where I really capture, you know, like you can see it in my pencils, just like you're talking about. You know, that I showed you before. You know, when we were on before we went on air, I have this Space Ghost piece that I want to ink for the show.
Can you go big screen on that? Let me see that.
Yeah, hold on. Where is it here? I'm sorry, I got everything over my picture right now. There we go. So this is
Wow.
the Space Ghost.
Talk about perspective. Look at the foreshortening on that arm.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thank you. But I thought I still had the original drawing behind it. Hold on, maybe I threw it over here. So yeah, I had it on an 8.5 by 11, where I didn't get a chance to do the feet. But you see, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little looser, a little.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of like this drawing a little better, but it wasn't long enough to do feet.
I like that a lot.
There's a lot of weight in that cape too. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can feel the air lifting that cape.
I'm really hoping that I can capture that when I bring the ink to it tomorrow. But yeah, so I tend to be like, hold on, I just throw everything around here.
Put it on a light board and
that's what I have.
Then ink the one off the light board and keep that one.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do, because I traced it off on my light board here.
I mean,
I don't like inking from a light board.
Well, don't ink it on the light board, but pencil it. You know.
No, that's what I mean. I
pencil and then ink the new pencil.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that, because that's what I did. You know, on this piece here, I have my light board right in front of me here. But yeah, so I do a lot of what?
I'm a slob with my stuff. I leave some of the pencil line in there on the finished pieces.
See, this is why I like penciled work, because I start with a blue line, then I go with like an HB or a two, whatever, and then and lately I've been using like a reddish brown colored pencil to go over it. I think what I like when I look at Rich's stuff or any artist, and that's the level that I see. I like it because you see the process of what the artist went through to do the drawing. And looking at a really tight ink, well, I can get that same thing from a piece of merchandise that was printed almost, I mean, I appreciate that the artist inked it and could do it that well. I'm that's not lost on me. And I ink stuff, but I think especially, selling this stuff and you're talking to people at a table, they get to see the process. You can see the geometric shapes, you can see where I tried things, and Rich leaves lines in, I leave lines in. You don't erase everything, so that they can kind of see what you went through to get that drawing. It's not just a slam dunk where like a kid sits down and he copies something and he draws something, starts at the top and top left-hand corner and works himself down the right. It's not like that. You're drawing everything all at the same time. And a lot of lines, and then you're like, okay, the 15th line that you do, okay, that one, I'll darken that one, but then you see all the other lines leading up to that. That's great stuff.
Yeah. I think one thing is that with inking, I've noticed in the newer comic books, is that people do the pencils, but then they'll ink on the computer, and it looks flat. And I've seen that on a lot of books. So you're not seeing what. I mean, you look at the other stuff. They penciled on the board and they inked on the board, so you saw what everybody their process. But
Yeah, I'll see these videos and they're like, hey, here's the best way to do this and that on an iPad or whatever. I'm like, well, then you don't have anything original.
yeah,
You don't have something, you can print it out, but that's not original. You don't have, the paper, you don't have the, and then if you're a working, say, comic book artist or cartoonist or something, and you're doing everything digitally, you have nothing to
Yeah.
to sell or to show
Yeah.
or to, you know. I am guilty of inking on an iPad though, not my own stuff. The second Willie Weasley book, I inked it in Procreate. Oh well.
Yeah, I did digital for years just because that was the quickest way, and freelancing and all this stuff, it's just easier sometimes.
Yeah.
But as of my New Year's resolution for 2025 was to get off a screen as much as possible because I spend too much time on there. And what I find myself doing now is laying out kind of pages and putting out some just roughs on there, and I'll print it out on just regular 11 by 17 paper.
Yeah.
And then I bring it in, and then I trace and really do my drawing. Traditionally now I'll do my inks. The only thing I want to do digitally is lettering because I hate lettering. And
Ugh,
that's true.
the worst.
I mean, listen, I know how to do it. I just hate lettering, and it's maybe some effects.
I couldn't.
That's all.
I couldn't hand letter to save my life, and I don't even like doing it on a computer.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary thing. I have never, since I retired, I have never bought so many art supplies. I don't even upgrade my computer anymore. The iPad, I'm one of those people now. The iPad Pro can kind of handle everything. I mean, I still use the computer for some stuff, but and it is great for scanning stuff and reducing stuff like a stat camera, and then I'll laser print out a pencil, and then I can put it go to the light board, and then I can pencil over it or ink over it. But no, everything is not. It used to start at the drawing board, but now it starts and stays at the drawing board, finishes there too. And I have bought so many sets of markers and pencils and stacks of different paper and stuff, and I love it. It's just, and I did the same thing. No more digital. It's no sir, I don't like it.
Nope.
Yeah, I even went back and started, experimenting with different inks again.
Oh, yeah,
and pen nibs, and I was like, because I haven't touched it since like my late 20s, early 30s, and
Yeah.
In February I'm going to be 50, so it's like it's been a long time,
Oh, he's a
that
baby.
You are 50.
Yeah.
Oh my
so,
God.
But it's been like a good 20 plus years since I pulled out. So I spent a lot of time just retraining myself on a brush.
Yeah. I know. It's yeah. I know. I hear you. I do have art supplies, even left from art school from 1972. Some stuff I
Yep.
just never got around to using, or stuff that was just like, not consumable. That was just solid, and templates and compasses and certain things. I do have some rolls of tape that are just that old.
I have a
artist tape and
20-year-old. I have a 20-year-old bottle of Dick Blick ink.
stuff. You do?
Yep.
There's my-
Yeah. So I'm a dinosaur. I'm at that age now where I have to have my son call me every morning to make sure that I'm awake to answer the phone. I'm getting wellness checks now and stuff.
Yeah.
Busy
that's it.
drawing. I can't go out and get the mail. He hasn't gotten the mail in 2. Actually, I had the next door neighbors when I first moved in here. They didn't know I was working then too, but my routine was I get up and, I'd work out down here, and then, I'd go to work for DC, and, you work 12, 14 hours, and you grab your lunch, whatever, you go up, grab your, and you go to bed.
Yeah.
And they actually came over. I was new here, and they knocked on the door, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? Oh, thank God. I said, what's the matter? Well, we almost were going to call the police and do a wellness check on you. I said, why? We haven't seen any sign of you in like days. And I said, well, I put the lamppost on. Well, that could be on a timer. And
Jeez.
I'm like, I don't drive to work. I mean, I work here, and I'm not going to go outside and run around the driveway just to let you know I'm alive and then come back in. I mean,
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is how I work. This is how every freelancer works. You don't get up and go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my wife even tells me, she's like, you got to get out of the house. When was the last time you left the house? And I'm like, I don't know. I walk from my bedroom like literally 5 feet into my studio.
Outside bad, inside good. I don't know where you're located, but this time of year, it's getting better to stay in.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm in
definitely.
New York.
So,
I'm in New York, so
Okay,
Yeah.
so
but
you have some comments I can see here, huh?
yes, we got the Joker. I was
Joker,
going
who
to
did
get to
you think
that.
was 25?
I thought maybe me. I don't know.
Oh,
But
Joker, you better answer correctly. Who did you think was 25? The animators did godlike work. I agree with them there. Bye-bye, and bye, Richard. Bye, Rick. Bye.
Yeah.
We were talking about Mickey Mouse. He's a man in a mouse suit. That's correct. See you next time. Later, Mike. Nice.
Yeah, that's Dylan.
Bring out
Thanks
the
for
bugs.
watching.
Who's Larry? That was my art teacher. I'm not a math guy. I'm a comic. Joker. Draw bugs. Good idea, Rick. Yeah. Dick Sprang can take 6 to 8 weeks to recover from. Yeah. It was intense. I did a lot of his stories. Get those filthy books away from me. Joker, you're very funny. It's actually my dog. Rich, is that a tribble when you had your dog on your lap? Oh, that's Tim.
That's
Rich,
Tim,
is
yeah.
that a tribble? Oh, I worked with Cad. He was a nice guy. All right, Bruce.
Yeah.
All right.
Tim's got to come back on the
Tim
show.
is
I haven't
very
chatted
funny.
with Tim.
Yeah. Pay the man
Thank
for
you,
his work.
Joker.
Yeah,
Breathe, Rick, breathe. Rich,
we'll have
your
to get the
glasses
four
are
of us.
crooked.
We'll have to get the 4 of us with Tim.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
so. Even though people have left, there are people still watching, right?
Yes, we got a few.
Yeah.
Still are hanging around. But I do think we should wrap it up soon. Save some of this for another time because
I should live so
think,
long.
I think we're really just scratching the surface here on
Oh, yeah.
what we could talk about, and I would love to bring you on again, and we'll get Tim on. Well, all 4 of us.
That'd be
We'll just sit
great.
around and
Just
chat,
kind of have
yeah.
a cartoonist jam, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We could actually have a cartoonist jam. Set up our cameras to
we
draw.
could do
Let's
that.
teach how to do that.
Yeah, it's funny. Rich was talking to me today, and I was telling him a story about that involved Atari, and he said, "You got to tell that story." And I'm like, "Well, I can't mention his name. No, change the names, but you should tell the story." I have a lot of change the name stories, which we never got to, but we can save those for next time too. There's yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know about you, Rich, and I don't know about you, Mike, but
We should get Mike. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. We should get Tom on too because he worked in DC.
Oh.
oh boy,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to say that I wouldn't trade my career for anything else. It was hard work, and we all, a room gets converted into a studio, and I mean, it's a studio. It's not good for anything else. And I had one in my previous house, and I have one here. And the previous house, it was a Victorian, and I was in that house for like 30 years. And this house, I had a fine space, and I got a nice big space here, but it's a studio. And I don't know what I would do without a studio in my house because I spent so much time in here when you're a freelancer and you have deadlines and you're working for, to me, when I was a kid, I wouldn't know how to get into DC. You know, people, when I grow up, I'm going to be a comic book artist. How are you going to do that? I have no idea. And I didn't have any idea until, until I was talking with Bob Stewart as an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that even happen? So, these days, I don't even know how it would happen. But I have to say that you work the first few years, because it took me a long time to figure out how I was going to do a lot of this stuff. And I wanted to do a good job because, believe me, they were watching me the first few years. And I didn't miss any deadlines ever. But I would work in the beginning. I'd get up at 6 and I would work until about 1 or 2. And sometimes I'd be in the chair and I would like put my head back and take a nap for like 10 minutes. Those little power naps, man, they'll get you through the day. But, I was in my 30s and I would do this. And I was still kind of like not making a lot of money. But I just loved the idea that this was what I was doing. And over time, I not only got faster, but I started making, more and more and more money, to the point where I got to a speed where, DC was at a point where like, well, we're going to try you out, and all this stuff. And then like, 8 years later or whenever it was, when I called up to do, just out of the blue, a call to do Disney comics. And I said, and I went right to the top, hello, my name is, and I do this and that for DC. And I see you're going to be doing Disney comics, and can I do that? Oh, Rick, we know who you are. We know who you are. We're very familiar with you. I'm going to put you through to the editor. And the editor had me down there in 2 days. And I'm like, wow, that didn't happen.
Nice.
That was like,
Yeah.
wow. And that's when I kind of knew things had changed as far as, the career and everything. But you're in a room for 14 hours sometimes. And the first few years, 14 hours every single day, weekends and holidays. I gave up so many holidays, Thanksgivings and stuff. I'd make an appearance because I had my kid and stuff. And then, hey, Mom, can you watch? I have to go back and do something. So you sacrifice a lot. The other thing is, I don't care how much music you have. I don't care if there's a TV on. If you're watching All My Children or listening to the Beatles or whatever, you're locked in here. And you have the opportunity, especially me over 35 years, where I have gone over and gone over and gone over every embarrassing moment in my life since I was a kid. You relived everything in your life. You remember every bullied moment. You remember every jackass thing you did. You remember every wrong decision you made. And you go in it's in your head, and you have to kind of like snap out of it. And that's the thing about you. You're not interacting with anybody. You're not at a job with people. You're not getting up and going out for lunch. You're not well, eventually I was, but it's, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And the people that I've met, and then the people who, they don't know me by face, but they know me by name. You have time for a quick story?
Yeah.
This blew my mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So the last town I was living in before I moved here, living on this street since '84, and I had started working for DC in '91, and so it had to be about oh gosh, I'd say I was working for the company for about 15 or 20 years or something like that at this point. And my next door neighbors were going to have a New Year's Eve party. And, I'm single and everything, and I, had nothing to do. So they said, why don't you come over? And I said, oh, great. I'd love to actually be vertical, walking around with living people. What a change of pace. So I go next door, and, it was great. Didn't have to drive, of course. And it was just nice being with these different people. So I'm meeting new people, and they had a bunch of people there I didn't know that weren't from the street and everything. And I'm talking to this guy, and he says, so what do you do? And my neighbor says, oh, this guy. He goes, yeah. He goes, you want to know what he does? And he starts telling him, he works for DC Comics, and he does this and that and all like that. This guy, he's about, remember, I go like this because he wasn't very tall. But he says, wait a minute. He goes, are you Rick Keene? And I said, yeah. And he says, do you work on those books? And he goes, you all that other, I said, yeah. He goes, where do you live? I said, next door. Where do you live? He goes, oh, I'm from, and I think he was like said Michigan or Minnesota, one of those M states, one of those M places. And I said, well, what do you do? He goes, oh, I'm the governor's assistant. I work with the governor. And I'm like, oh, how do you know me? I collect all your books. I'm your biggest fan. Can we go
Jeez.
next door and see where you work? I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. I said, oh, okay. And then we start leaving, me and then my neighbor was going to come with me, and he's been over there before. And then somebody, where you going? This is Rick Keene. We're at DC Comics. We're going to see his studio. Oh, can we come? You know, there's like 8 of us piled into we go upstairs, they pile into my room. And I'm like, and they're looking around. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are expecting to find. And I go, look at this. This is, look at, and you know, we collect things and we have things.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have shit, you know? So, and the books that I had done and everything. And, you know, and it just, it felt good because you are in a room alone all the time and you really don't know how you're doing. And one of the first things DC tells you is never go looking and read reviews. Never. It's like biting into a fried clam. You'll never eat another fried clam again. Don't go read your reviews. And of course I did, you know, a couple of times and I regretted it. So I never have since. But, you know, it was nice seeing that people were actually reading this stuff and enjoying it and collecting it. And that would happen once in a while. But, you know, more times than not, you're spending the majority of your life in this room doing what you really like to do. And then, like, whenever I'd go to DC, there'd be somebody in there visiting, or there would be, you know, especially back in the 90s and whatever, you know, I got to meet Archie Goodwin and Joe Orlando and, you know, all these icons of, you know, Dick Giordano is the one that signed me in and everything. He had me in his office and he brought me in and here, you are now one of us. And I'm Dick Giordano. I'm like, are you kidding me? So
Dick was my teacher. Yeah, he was a great guy. Yeah.
You know, and then I'd go to the Mad floor, and I'd see all the Mad magazine people that you know, their names I'd seen since I was a kid, and people like, you know, I passed Dick DeBartolo, and I was gonna say hi to Dick DeBartolo. This guy wrote the Match Game, and he wrote most of Mad magazine, a lot of Mad magazine and everything. And I just turned into this like fan, and I'm like, no, I'm a professional. Just, hey, what's up? You know, keep walking. And it's like, I really wanted to talk to him. So it was a really great career, and it opened doors, and kids seem to respond. Moments like this where you want to have me, you know, where you want to ask me questions and I'll give you a chance because I babble like an idiot, you know. So it's I wouldn't trade this for anything, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it's in our blood.
And that's why I like to do the conventions. I don't do it for the money because, I mean, I just, you know, wouldn't make enough. But I talk to a lot of people, and I'm really happy that when people come up and either the drawings or whatever I did made them happy, or somebody grew up with Disney and they see Pluto and they buy everything Pluto, or you know, or they see that I'm going to be at a show and they bring the books that I did years ago and they have me sign them and they just ask me stuff and, you know, want me to tell them a story or something. And all those crazy times when I had all that crap in my head, it's kind of worth it now to be able to be out there and just, I don't know, people smile. There's no politics, there's no sides, there's no trouble. It's one common thing. And, you know, to quote Walt Disney, it all started with a mouse. No, you know, it all just, kind of all funny animals. That's what got me into it. Yeah. Funny animals. That's my favorite comic, Funny Animals.
Yeah. Mine too.
Not even superheroes. I worked on them, but funny animals.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I wanted to do superheroes, but it's a total different art. So you know.
Yeah.
And I learned from Giordano, and I learned from, you know, Kurt Swan and stuff, and Frank McLaughlin, and I just could not get the hang of it. I said, but my heart was like Funny Animals. I love superheroes, you know, but
I think that's why I had to kind of make Willie Weasley on the mature side. I
Uh-huh.
mean, I wasn't going to do it for children, and I don't think that they're really in style, at least when I did mine back in the 80s. And, I noticed with Crumb, and I think since then I've seen Crumb in interviews say this, you can do more with funny animals, making a
Oh, yeah.
statement about society and humans than you
Yeah.
can doing it with humans. It's almost preachy or stiff or silly when it's
Mhm.
human characters doing it. When you do funny animals, you can really reflect humans and the human condition and everything with funny animals much easier, at least for me. I mean, you got to read some of this Willie Weasley stuff. I'd say that most of the stuff in these Willie Weasley books is stuff that actually happened because I was single for a long time. But a lot of the stuff has happened, and I just sort of, manipulated it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, that's my
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
It's a great piece to end on.
Yep.
Yeah, funny animals is the way to go, guys.
Yeah,
Mhm.
funny animals. I got to
That's-
look at these again.
Joker just added a couple of more I was gonna reference.
Oh, we were just getting started and we're leaving. Oh, no. Rick was like, "Put that down. Don't touch that. Leave my room now." Oh, when I had the people in New
Yeah,
York.
yeah, everyone.
Do you know what I can get for that? Put that down.
I know.
I say to my grandkid all the time.
When my nephews were young, I said the same stuff.
Yep.
I tell my son, I said, "Tim, it looks like junk, but when I go, you have somebody come in here and like appraise everything, but don't say, hey, have somebody just give you a number and say, I'll take everything for." No, I said this stuff. Anyway,
That's
so
it.
one
Yeah.
thing before we go, I want
Yes.
to ask you, Mike.
Yeah.
You're 50, right? You're going to be 50.
I'm going to be 50 in February. Yeah.
So you grew up when video games were Atari and television and ColecoVision.
Yep.
So what did you have?
I physically had the Atari. My uncle had ColecoVision and Intellivision, so I would play those when I would visit. But I got in, what was it? Was it 85 or 86? My dad brought home the IBM PC Junior, and I started playing, the disc games. And I was a big fan of Sierra games, King's Quest,
Oh, Sierra Online.
Space Quest, all that stuff. I belong to actually a Sierra Facebook group. I love it.
Wow.
Like that really, because I'm a big fantasy guy and sci-fi guy, and I kind of blame Sierra for it.
Yeah.
How much I spent playing Space Quest and King's Quest, and then what was it, Quest for Glory? Like I had the Nintendo, the original NES, had the Sega Genesis, and then I kind of stopped. And later on, I was never really good at games. That was the thing. Like I loved watching people play. And when they got I loved the story behind it. And then after my first job, it was all about making games or just making stories. So much where my wife's like a gamer. She'll play games for hours. And when we were dating, she would take the remote out of my hand and say, "You suck. You can't play. Let me let me get you." And this just for Rich. We had the Animaniacs game, and I would drive her nuts because the characters just would move and jump and bounce like crazy. And I don't know if you ever saw the game or played it, Rich.
No, never did. No.
But it was a fun game. And she was like, no. I remember sitting on her bed playing the game, and she literally grabbed it out of she goes, "You're driving me crazy."
Did they have humor from the cartoon in that game?
I believe so. Yeah, because you were on the studio lot, and then you would go into like, I think you'd go into like episodes.
So did they have like "Hello Nurse" and "Good night, everybody"? And
I don't remember the "Good night, everybody," but yeah, they would have all the characters made appearances. But you could
such a
play,
funny
I think,
show.
Oh, and because that came out what 91, I think, or
Yeah, that
92,
was after
something like
Tiny
that.
Toons. Yeah.
And I was telling Rich, I consider that my Looney Tunes because
Yeah.
that was the era where like they were using the celebrities I knew, the political figures I knew, where like the original Looney Tunes, if I didn't know who they were, or, when I was a kid, I ended up learning history as I got older, and I could be like, oh, I saw that old movie, I know who that character they're trying to improve, but like Animaniacs was what I consider my Looney
Well,
Tunes,
it's like when, like I think I told you this before. They called us in and we looked at it, and it was on a VHS, and half the sound wasn't there. And I think if I remember right, Pinky and the Brain was in sort of pencil tests of
Yeah.
what we saw, but it still looked like a hit. I didn't think Pinky and the Brain would take off. That was funny,
Oh, really?
they didn't have sound on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Warner Brothers, they had sound sometimes. It was interesting the way they did it. They showed
I
us.
and Mike, of course, you've seen Rich's Animaniacs drawings, and
Yeah.
um, I was actually nervous to talk to him when I met him that day. Well, I mean, it took me. I avoided Keith Williams for like 1.5 days. I was new to convention. I was just so nervous, and these people couldn't be nicer to me. And when you talk to Rich for the first time, it's like, oh, I think this guy's a friend of mine now. He just has that way about him. But I was,
Yeah.
I
you
try.
look at his Animaniac drawings, and I told him it's like looking at the animation. There's so much, the poses, the action, the way they move. He's got them in a pose. You can tell the way they move just by the way he draws them,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and that's a gift. So I think
Yeah.
Oh, his Looney Tunes stuff is great too, but the Animaniac stuff cracks me up because they are so animated. They're
Yeah,
so outrageous, and he manages to capture that in a drawing. You know,
Yeah.
I
And we
try.
have a nice print, Animaniacs print
Yeah,
together, that we did. That's one of the prints I colored for you. But yeah, actually, I think I inked that one too.
yeah, he
That was a
did.
nice one. I inked and I did the background. It was really nice. Had a lot of fun on that one
Yeah,
because I was such a fan of that show that like when you asked, "Will you do that?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" I mean, I get to work on a piece that like an Animaniacs artist did. Like I was like excited for it.
yeah,
So I had a lot of fun with that. And but yeah, it's great stuff. That's the thing about cons. And Keith Williams, if you guys don't know, Keith is like the nicest
he
guy
is. I've
in the
seen him several
world.
times now, and
Yeah.
I'm disappointed when I'm at a show and he's not there. That's he's like that. It's like, what, Keith's not. I can't do this show. Keith's not going to be there. Yeah,
that's true.
he's great. He's a great artist too.
Mhm.
But
Amazing, yeah.
I have a ColecoVision to sell if you really liked your uncle's ColecoVision.
I'm good right now. I don't play games anymore.
I don't either.
Unfortunately,
I don't
I
either.
watch them. I will.
You can watch him on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'll look up old games that I used to play
Yeah.
and like and type in walkthrough and just let
Hmm.
somebody,
I mean, I was like,
you know.
I was like 28, I think, when in '82. So that's when I got the 2600, and I was like, after a couple of days, I'm like, this isn't what I saw in the arcades. Especially when I plugged in Pac-Man. I was like, what's this? So I was really disappointed, but I liked it, and I would play,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. The ColecoVision comes out, and then one of my favorite games was Zaxxon because it was just
Oh, I love
beautiful. I mean, that is a
Yeah.
work of art. That is incredible.
Yeah.
And I was like, and you always get. I mean, I went out and got the arcade cabinet about 15 years ago, and I don't have it anymore. It was a cocktail table, but that's how much I loved it. And I have a miniature arcade that plays the actual Zaxxon. I mean, I just love Zaxxon. But back then in the 80s, you're at the mercy of these $30 cartridges, which
Yeah,
I don't know how we spent $30 back in the 80s. What was it? What would that be, like $150 today for a crappy cartridge?
Probably, yeah.
So, Coleco's like, and we have the Intellivision and the Atari 2600 version of everything that they do. But when they showed Zaxxon, I'm like, okay, that's pretty darn close to what I see in the arcade. And oh, it's out for the Atari. So I went and I got it for the 2600, and I'm like, it's a seesaw at the bottom of the screen, and everything's coming at you like it's just awful.
Oh, I don't know if I had it
Oh
for
my
that. I
God.
had,
You look it up on YouTube. It was so
yeah, I'll have
bad
to.
that the following week I went out and I bought a ColecoVision so I could play Zaxxon. And then I gave the 2600 to my sister, but I had a lot of games left that I really liked, so I bought the adapter, the 2600 adapter. And then of course I had to have the roller controller for Centipede and everything. So
Mhm.
I had all this stuff. I sold it and then I rebought it. Oh, no, I didn't rebuy it. Somebody had all this stuff in a cottage that they said they weren't using it anymore, and they said, "Hey, do you want all this junk?" And I was like, "Sure." So I took it and I cleaned it up. Works perfectly. Had all the accessories, all the games, everything, and I've had it for about 10 years. I'm just never going to play video games again, and
Yeah.
it must be worth something to somebody. I may donate it because I got it for free, but yeah, it's. I found time to play those things. And I think that and this was going to lead into a story we were going to tell, but we're not going to tell it tonight. The mystery of seeing like actual video games, like you'd see in an arcade, Donkey Kong and stuff. To me, it was such a mystery as how these cartoons were moving and that you could control them. And they made me want to create my own characters and things on a computer, pixel style, which I started doing
Yeah.
on the Commodore and everything. So that kind of got me into like, hey, I wonder if computers can do what Bob Stewart asked me to try and figure out. Can you do these to make it look like they weren't done on a computer? And that was the
Yeah.
whole thing. That was the whole trick. Took me a couple of years to figure it out, but I worked it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it all started with the Pac-Man.
Everything does, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that
does.
was,
It does.
oh,
Yep.
yeah. You got me thinking now. That's what I'm probably going to go like look up before bed. I'll sit on my phone. I usually put on like a YouTube video or something to fall asleep to.
Yeah.
I watch some
So
gaming
do a
stuff.
comparison, and some of these people, they'll do comparisons, like they'll say, um, they'll show like all the versions. They'll show the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, and the ColecoVision version all at the same time. And but I'm sure you can just look up 2600 Zaxxon and then look up
Yeah.
ColecoVision Zaxxon. And yeah, I bought it and I was like, what is this? And I just spent $30 on it. And then the next week I went out and I bought a ColecoVision because I was 28, I could do 29 or something at the time. I was like, I can do this. What an idiot.
Listen, it is what it is, man. I know we need to wrap up, but like,
This is too much
I
fun.
kind of feel that's what happens. I feel this kind of the same way. Like, I remember in '92 being in, what was I in 10th grade there, 10th or 11th grade, whatever. Yeah, 10th
Oh my
grade
God, I was
probably.
already divorced.
And like I took my first computer class, and I'd literally sit on the computer and draw pixel by pixel. Like I was so focused on it that like when I went to college in '94, the reason I got the job was I knew this software. I don't know if you ever heard of the software Director.
Yeah.
Uh, I took one semester of Director, and I knew enough. And like I didn't realize I was making games. I wanted to make cartoons, so I was making animated things with my characters, but I had to program it. So I was like, my character would be like, over here at sitting on a chair, and you'd have to click him, and he'd get up and walk across the screen to another place. So I was doing all this programming and all this animating and stuff, and I was just trying to tell a story,
Yeah.
like make an animated short, but get my grade. So I was, I was making it interactive. But this guy saw it, and he was like, he saw my portfolio of what I was doing in Director, and it was like, "Oh, you understand how to make games, and I think you cartoon well. So why don't you come over and you know, I interned with him for about a month and a half before he started paying me, and I was getting like $15 an hour in like 94, 95.
That's like a
And I
dream
was
come
like,
true for somebody that
yeah,
age to, you know,
yeah, I started at 18. I started getting paid at 19,
wow.
you know, and, you know, because I started in like November or December, and my birthday's in February. So they hired me before my birthday, even, you know, so, so yeah, that's, and I worked on and off with that company for 2 years, and it taught me a lot about the industry, things, how bosses could be. And,
Yeah, you learned at a young age.
I
True.
learned I mean, listen, I'm not saying I didn't make my mistakes, but there was business stuff I had to learn pretty quick, and things about copyrights, and, you know, protecting myself from people trying to steal my
Oh
work.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, there was a lot I learned. You know, by the time I was like 21, I was pretty on, you know, on the ball about protect, like, copyright and trademark and protections. And, you know, I'm, you know, I still need to learn. I feel like these days I still need to learn more now. But
Yeah, it's complicated out there. It really is.
yeah,
Well, that's great that you got that experience at such a young age.
yeah, yeah, it was. And, you know, then I did other things. I worked, you know, graphic design, video editing. I worked in puppetry for a little bit. I've done a bunch of different things. So, but yeah, I spent a lot of time illustration. And
Puppetry.
yes.
I have experience with puppetry. I, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and again 10 years earlier, I played Audrey 2 in two productions of Little Shop of Horrors.
Really, that is awesome.
And you talk about puppetry, I mean, it's a full body puppet. The two of them are full
Yeah,
body. And you eat people. The last one, well, the middle one, when I'm in a pot, you know, you eat body parts, but the last one, you're actually eating people.
yeah, yeah,
And I have to say that out of all the things I've done, the most fun that I had in my life was being on stage playing Audrey 2, because they rented
yeah.
the actual, you know,
Mm.
the Audrey 2s, the one that you see, it's similar one. Well, the one in the movie is really that one, but the one in the movie looks like the stage one, the Broadway one,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much what we had, and I loved it. And you know, and it's, you know, when you know, the beginning of the show, it's just a plant coming up out of a pot, and
Yeah.
so that's me behind the windowsill, crouched down with my hand in a puppet with a pot, holding a string, holding the pot on the sill, and then through the bottom of the pot, the plant comes up, and then it looks at the, you know, looks at the audience, and then, you know, because that's when the audience finds out that this thing is a living creature, and nobody else does, and then from there, you know, you start suiting up into larger puppets until you're in the thing the size of a rowboat, and you're lifting the mouth with your back and this bar in there, and you're, you know, lips, you know, you're doing the lip syncing to the offstage voice, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. What kind of puppets were
Yeah.
you doing? Like,
I was doing like marionettes and hand rod puppets, and yeah, would you call them hand rod puppets? Yeah, yeah, not like Muppet style, what you were doing, where, you know, your hands up. I know you can't see my arm, guys, but it would be up in the air. You're like this, and you got the rods
yeah,
down here. But it was marionettes. You know, or I would say probably rod puppets, where they had the controls in the back, and I'd lift the legs, or
oh yeah, I know
control
what
the
you
arm.
mean. I know what you mean.
I would do those. But I have, you know, I have arthritis in my knees and hips, and I can't really do that type of stuff anymore. But you know, I've used to build a little bit. I don't have like, I used to have a workbench, not in this studio, but in an older studio, where I would actually like carve wood or sculpt clay and make molds and stuff.
Nice.
I did more behind the scenes than actual performing, but I did a little performing. But I will say I agree with you. Like, being a cartoonist and being in your studio all day, which, you know, I got to say, I do enjoy the being alone and just me with my work. I love
Hmm.
that. but there is nothing like live performance where you actually hear the audience's reaction, which you don't get when you're drawing or animating.
No, that's why I go to conventions.
Yeah, and that's one of the
It's
things
like
I like
it's
about
like delayed applause.
Yeah, exactly. But to get the reaction of laughter or whatever you're trying to go for in that scene with the puppet, I love that. But I can't act unless I have like you can't get me on stage and have me be me.
Oh no.
You know,
I mean,
but you give me that puppet,
yeah.
and I will.
Yeah, when I
perform.
was Audrey 2, I couldn't see, hear, or I could barely breathe, and it was pitch black.
Yeah.
And I could feel where the actors were, and that's how we rehearsed. I could tell which way I was supposed to, you're in the thing, and I'm holding the jaws like this, and opening it like this, and my head is behind the roof of the mouth, and there's a little bit of a mesh where I can see it, but they can't see. They just see the inside of a mouth, and so this is one like the middle-sized puppet, and I can barely make out what the guy is saying. I make out some stuff, but I have to lip sync to it. But I have to add personality. It's just a big pistachio nutshell, with teeth. And so you learn things like when I'm in the pot, all these roots are hanging out of the pot, and my waist, my torso is a little short part is the stem, and then my legs are in roots, and so you can't tell which are my legs and which are the roots. So two of the roots will move and stuff, and so it almost looks like the plant has these arms and these hands, right? So I would learn when to kick my feet to do things and to keep beat with the music, and and the beat. There's one song where the beat starts churning up, and I'm just trying to get trying to get Seymour to kill the dentist, and there's this song and everything, but I had to learn to like tilt the head, put personality in this big pistachio nut, and when to like just part the lips, make it look like it's listening, thinking, scheming, hungry. It's not just flapping the thing with somebody's voice. You have to move around, and when they're dancing, when Seymour's dancing with all this stuff, and people would laugh, and it was the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, this is a drug. They don't see me, which is great. They're just seeing this giant plant, and they're laughing in the right places, and they're clapping and all that. And I'm like, God, it was instantly making people happy.
Yeah.
And it was just a really good feeling. Yeah. One girl asked somebody who was in the cast afterwards, like she came up to me and she says, my friend was in the audience. She thought you were an animatronic.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I'm like, I could use one.
Yeah, but it's a great art form. It's an underrated art form.
Well, it's related to animation. I mean, what you're doing is you're doing personality and movement, whether through drawings or puppets. So it's all kind of related.
Exactly. Yeah. But listen, we should number one, talk off air, but also definitely come back on. I'm sure you and I could just do a whole thing on puppets and talk about that. And,
we should come back. We should all come back before we do the show in the spring.
Yeah.
Which show?
A little more enthusiasm, Rich. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Hold on. Which show are we doing in the spring?
I don't know. There's always a show in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure it out then.
Unless you get really bored in February and you want to do this, I'll do this anytime. This is fun.
All right, man. Okay. You know what? I definitely should wrap it up. Listen, everyone who has watched the whole show, awesome. Thank you for sticking with us. If you're watching a little later, I hope you're thoroughly enjoying it because I had a great time tonight. And
your check is in the mail, everybody.
And I will see you next week with another guest. Rick and Rich, both of you, thank you for coming on. It was great chatting with you both.
Okay.
And Rich, we'll talk, I'm sure, before Friday.
Okay.
So. I appreciate it. It was excellent being here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to hang out afterwards, feel free.
I'll hang out with you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later, guys. Thank you all. See you next week.
Okay.
All right.